Hello, everyone. I know it's a little late out there, but we are ready for some Hebrew class. My name is Rabbi Brian Bileci, and it might be a little later. Maybe you put the kids to sleep already, but we are grateful that you can join us for a little bit of Hebrew tonight. And we want to jump right into our lesson. And we are looking at the last portions of the book of Leviticus, the book of Vayikra. So we're excited about that tonight. So if you are with us out there and you have joined us, we're just so grateful that we have an opportunity for you to join our YouTube family, and we're grateful that you can like and subscribe and comment there on the uploaded videos. Also, if you're on Facebook tonight, you can even join us. Again, you can join us and let us know if you're out there, comments, questions, concerns, a little question about Hebrew or the portion we're in for the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, portions Behar and Bechukotai. So we're excited about that tonight. And so we're looking at Leviticus chapter 25:1, goes all the way to chapter 27:34. So if you're ready to jump in tonight, let's go ahead and jump into some Hebrew. All right. Aleph Beit. The Aleph is the ox head of strength, and the letter Beit is a picture of a house, and together they make the alphabet, the Aleph Beit. So subscribe, let us know you want to learn Hebrew with us. You can even look at the third letter, Gimel, which in English would be a C, but it gives us the picture of a camel, which is spelled with a C, but the Gimel is a picture or a pictograph. And so we're going to learn that the Hebrew language is a series of pictographs. Let's go into our lesson for today and look at Behar and Bechukotai. So we're going to jump in and look at our 22 consonant letters. If you're out there, let us know. We are going to start with 5 letters at a time. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first 4 before we even sound them. And we're going to see the pictographs. We have the Aleph, which is the picture of Eleph, an ox. The letter Beit, which is the picture of Bait, a house. Gimel, we said earlier that it's a gamal, a camel. So notice the G and the C connection. The Dalet, which is the 4th letter, is the letter Delet, which is a door. So let's go ahead and sound our Aleph Beit 5 letters at a time. Let's go ahead and jump in with the first 5. We've got Miriam joining us from India, so glad she's joining us. So let's go ahead and start with our online students that are on Facebook and YouTube, and also those that are on Zoom. We're grateful that you have joined us tonight. So we are jumping right in. 1, 2, 3. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. All right, take a little breath. Vav, Zain, Chet, Tet, Yud. Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech. Next 5. Ein, Pei, Tzadi, Kuf, Resh. The last 2, Shin, Tav. All right, so that's the first set of letters that we need to learn. Basically all 22 of them. We break them down 5 letters at a time so we can prepare to learn them on our hands, like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's exactly how we should learn in Hebrew, 5 letters at a time. So you can learn your Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ein, Pei, Tzadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tav. And once you get proficient in 5, you can move on to the next 5 and feel like you're confident in learning the letters. Now remember, we saw that there was a strong connection between Hebrew and Greek. So the Aleph is like the Greek alpha, or the letter Beit is like beta or vita in modern Greek. And the Dalet is a picture of delta, or is a triangle, both the Dalet in Hebrew and the delta in Greek. And then Gimel is gamma. You can also see a connection between He and Epsilon. Some pronounce it Epsilon, but it's in modern Greek Epsilon. And so He and Epsilon drop the H, and you get the E of He and the E of Epsilon. And then we have Vav or Vau and Wow, which is basically taking it from Hebrew to Greek. And we see that even the letter V in German is a F sound, as in Volkswagen. The Volkswagen, the wagon, is actually Wagen, And the votes is Volkswagen, which means the folks' wagon, the people's wagon. So you can see how the name of God can sometimes be misunderstood as Yud He Vav He being translated to YHVH as it should be in Hebrew, but it could be confused with maybe YHWH or JHVH for trying to pronounce and spell the name of God. So what we're going to use is a Nukud vocalization that is given to us from the Masoretes. And these Masoretes give us the Masoretic text of the Hebrew Bible, which is part of the Tanakh, the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. So let's go ahead and look at our 5 vowels. A, E, I, O, U for A, E, I, O, and U. Let's go ahead and sound them. 1, 2, 3. A, E, I, O, U. Again. A, E, I, O, U. One more time. A, E, I, O, U. So, if we were looking in the Torah scroll, we would just have vowel indicators like the Aleph, He, Vav, Yud, or Ein. Aleph and Ein are silent, so they can really carry multiple sounds or vowels, so they can indicate many things. And usually you have to kind of learn or memorize which vowel goes with which consonant for the making of a simple open or closed syllable. In this case, these vowel indicators are important because if you were to look at the word for mother, Ima, you would not know it was Ima. You might think it's Ama because you would think Aleph is an A. But it can carry the I vowel, the hirik, the dot underneath. So we see that Ima is mother. Ima. Ima from the word M, mother. In this case, it's really mommy, Ima. And then Sarah, you have the He at the end of her name for the H for Sarah. And it's just holding the spot for the Aleph. It's holding the spot for the kamatz in front of it. So Sarah or Sarah, or the Vav in Shalom, holding the dot in the air for, oh, look at that bird in the air, for the O sound of the O vowel in Shalom for peace. Or the contraction of Shem and Ani for Shmi, my name, my name. If I want to say Shmi Baruch, my name is Baruch, which is my Hebrew name, or I could say Brian, but if I'm saying in Hebrew, Shmi would be my name. And then Ein is a part of the body. It's the I. It's the name of a letter. It's also a pictograph of the I. So when you look at these vowel indicators, you see how important these vowel indicators are. And so we will take those vowels and use this formula, a consonant plus a vowel to make an open syllable. All we need is one consonant and one vowel to make an open syllable. But to close the syllable or have a closed syllable, we're going to add an extra consonant. So in this case, the example is very clear that if we start with a consonant and a vowel, like we have here, a consonant and a vowel, we might have ah, ah. Now this is actually a medium ah. The long ah would have the kamatz. Or even shorter than the patach would be a shorter vowel that we will say in just a minute when we go over our vowel system. So if we actually look at this shorter vowel, we have hataf patach, and that's going to be a short, or I would call, the sounds long, medium, and short. So in this case, the long would look like this. Kamatz would be ah, and then we have patach, which would be ah, and then we have the hatuf patach, and that would be ah, ah. So very important to see the timing on that. Now, when you're looking at multiple dots, that we'll see in a minute also when we go through our vowels, we know that just 2 dots side by side will give us the sound, the e vowel being eh. So we have and then we have shorter sagol, In the Torah, you're only going to have these vowel indicators. And you learn the vowels when you're a child, when you're learning in Hebrew in Israel or around the world. But most of the time, you only have indicators. So in the structure of our vowel system, we're going to use the aleph as a vowel indicator and the example for all the vowels. So let's start with the kamatz, and the kamatz malay would be long. Patach, reducing it from the T shape to one line, looks like a hyphen, is medium. And chataf patach is adding 2 dots on the right side, which is normally seen as a shva. Shva. We'll see that when we get to the E vowel. When you get to E, we have multiple dots that look like eggs for the S sound. So anytime you see multiple dots, whether you know it's long, medium, or short, or reduced, just know multiple dots give you the E vowel pronounced eh. Starting with Sere, Sere Yud, and Segol Yud, that combination will all give us a long E vowel, eh. The Segol will be medium, eh, and then Hataf Segol, adding 2 dots on the right side of the 3 dots in a downward triangle, making a total of 5 dots. Hataf Segol is short. And then the Shva by itself, 2 dots on a vertical plane, and this is going to be the 2 dots that look like a colon underneath the letter, and this is a short E or reduced E, and that reduced E is usually a short E under the first letter of a word, or in other places it can be a glottal stop. So again, good to have some friends on Zoom. We've got some friends from India on, Miriam and Joseph. Good to have both of you on. And just reviewing our vowels at this time. The 1 dot we know gives us the I vowel, like the lowercase I has a dot. In this case, flip it upside down and you'll have the dot underneath, followed by the letter Yud for long, E, and then by itself for medium, E. And then the famous Vav for the O and the U. If the dot's on top, we say, oh, look at that bird in the air for Cholam Vav. We can remove the Vav and leave the dot in the air for Cholam Haser. And then we, on a few occasions, use the kamatz for an O, or Chataf kamatz for a short O. So medium and short, we can use the kamatz, and it's only a few times you memorize when it's used. You don't need to figure it out. You just memorize the words or the names or the words in Hebrew that use this kamatz hatuf or kamatz that is the chataf kamatz. And so in this case, we will then also use the vav for the u sound, for the u vowel. Shuruk is the dot on the side. And we remind ourselves that the dot on the side is like a purse on a woman's side. So when you see a nice purse on a woman's side, you say, ooh, look at that nice purse. At least the ladies always do. And that is called shuruk. That is long, and that would be ooh. And then kubutz would be ooh. So it would be medium. So there's our vowels. An example of that would be shalom. Shalom. Starting with a open syllable of just one consonant, the letter sheen, and the kamatz underneath in yellow. That is an open syllable, and that is sha. Sha. That's going to give us transliterated S-H-A. Sha. And then when we see the second consonant in the word from right to left, we see the lamed. The lamed is a consonant, and it's an L. So we're transliterating that L for sha, and then we have l. And then we have the vowel that normally we look for vowels underneath consonants. In this case, we don't see one. So we're going to keep reading right to left, and we're going to see one on the left. What do we find? Our vav. That could be a V consonant, but it's not a V. It's not a vav. It's holding the spot of the vowel, and it's holding it up in the air. Oh, look at that bird in the air. And the dot in the air above the vav is holding the spot of the O sound. For now, the lamed would be L, and the cholam vav would be O. Shalo, shalo. So far we have shalo. And the only way we make shalom is to put a closing consonant. And this closing consonant is very special, one of 5 that are Sophite letters. And so, like kaf, backwards looking C, dot in the center called a dagesh. Remove it, it's chaf, going from K to KH or CH. And at the end of the word, chaf sofit, it looks like an elongated dalet. And no longer looks like a backward C, except in some fonts in Hebrew. Then the mem, as we're using for shalom, has a different look at the end of the word, mem sofit. So chaf sofit, mem sofit. Also, we have nun and nun sofit. We have peh. To make the peh, we need the strong dot or dagesh in the center of the letter peh. Remove the dagesh or the dot, and we get fe. P goes to ph or f in transliteration. And then fe sofit looks again elongated, like the chaf, the nun, and now the fe. And then sadi becomes sadi sofit, also elongated, going down into the ground. So these 5 letters only are the letters that look different at the end of a word to help us separate in ancient Paleo-Hebrew what looked like one word when it's really 2. It was just a way to know that's the last letter, start a new word as you're reading in Paleo-Hebrew. Or in the Hebrew found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That also had a very similar look to Paleo-Hebrew. So in modern Hebrew, there's not the need so much for it, but it's part of the system that's been handed down to us, so we still use it. So let's basically look at our portion this week, and we're going to start with Behar, Vayikra, or Leviticus 25:1. Tree of Life version says, Then Adonai said to Moses on Mount Sinai, or in Hebrew, on Mount, or in the mount, is Behar. Behar. It says, Speak to Bnei Israel and tell them, when you come into the land which I give you, then the land is to keep a Shabbat to Adonai. So let's break this word down. Behar. We have Har, which is mountain. Har. Mountain. And we are actually getting this from the text of Leviticus 25:1 that we just read, Behar. So we start with not the letter beit in front as a prefix, but removing it just for the noun, Har, mountain. Now, the phrase is actually Har Sinai. Why don't you try that at home? Har Sinai. Har is mountain, or in this case, mount. Sinai is Sinai. This is the mountain of the festival that we're going to celebrate called Shavuot, which is going to give us the Feast of Pentecost, also translating from Hebrew to English, the Feast of Weeks. The Feast of Weeks. So we're preparing for that. Now, we are no longer celebrating the festivals in Har Sinai in the wilderness, but if we go back to this idea of Behar being in the mount, we have to first think of the prefix in front of Har, and that is the prefix beit. Beit. And this beit comes from bait, or beit, house of, but beit is a picture of a house, or to be in the house. So the function of the house is for you to be in it. So therefore, the function of the letter beit as a prefix is to be in something. So be means in, or a contraction of the letter beit, and the letter hey as a prefix will give me ba. Ba, in the, ba. Now, in Genesis we use this letter beit as a prefix. Be reshit, literally meaning in the beginning, or in the first, or at first. And the picture is a house. Beit, a house. And a family resides in the house, which is why the letter beit is used as a prefix for in. Now let's go back to a very important house that we should study in Scripture, and that is Har Habayit. Har Habayit, the mountain of the house. The mountain of, what is this Har Habayit, the mountain of the house? Well, when you see a beautiful picture of Jerusalem, you see a gold dome in the place where Har Habayit should be. This gold dome is not the temple, but it is on the Temple Mount. In 2007, I was actually able to go with my wife, me and my wife on the right, and we were traveling with a dear Irish woman, Irene Levy, on the far left. At the time, I think she was 88 years old, still driving us around, and she drove us to the Mount of Olives right here. And this 88-year-old woman who was married to an Israeli before Israel became a nation. In 1948, Israel became a nation again. Well, she came to Israel and married this Israeli man before Israel became a nation. She introduced me to a tour guide that let me just free of charge jump on her tour bus and experience the Holy Land without the charge that we normally were required to pay, because all we had was enough shekels to get us to Israel. We were blessed with a certain amount of money to get to Israel, and we didn't have the money for a tour. So we were blessed in the land to be right here on the Mount of Olives. And on the Mount of Olives, you can see that we're right there looking at what would be the Temple Mount. So this Temple Mount area, I would not see as close as I would see in later years, especially like in 2018, I was actually on the mount. I was actually on Har Habayit. And so you see a picture of me here by the not the temple, but the Dome of the Rock Mosque dedicated to Muhammad. And this is believed by those of Islamic faith to be the place where Isaac was supposed to be offered by Abraham and where Muhammad ascended. We actually know it's the place where Ishmael, let me get that correct. Islam says that Ishmael was going to be offered on Mount Moriah, which becomes the Temple Mount area. And that's actually the place where Abraham was going to offer up Isaac according to the Torah. So there's a little dispute between Jews and Muslims. But nonetheless, this is what is there presently. But you have to realize when Yeshua was ministering, he had the real temple to go to. Here's a model of the temple. And we often talk about the rebuilding of the temple. So important that we realize that for the Messiah to come, he must rebuild the temple. And true worship will once again come on Har Habayit, the mountain of the house being the temple. And when you think about Shavuot, and you think about the Holy Spirit filling the house, he was actually filling the temple, not an upper room. That is a fallacy, that people think that the Holy Spirit came to fill an upper room. The upper room was their living quarters, but it says it filled the whole house. And the upper room is mentioned in Acts chapter 1, while the infilling of the Holy Spirit happened in Acts chapter 2. And these are probably days or at least hours apart from each other, because you had to go to the temple daily to celebrate the counting of the Omer, to bring the Omer, to experience from the barley harvest to the wheat harvest, Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. So we absolutely know that Har Habayit is referring to the Temple Mount, and we can't wait for the rebuilding of the temple one day. At least we know when Messiah comes, he'll fix everything that we are confused about today, theologically and hermeneutically and homiletically. So the other portion that we have is Bechukotai. It is in my statutes or decrees, it can be defined. And it's found in Leviticus 26:3. It says, if you walk in my statutes. So see the words in my statutes. It says, keep my mitzvot and carry them out. Then I will give you rain in their season. Why? Because we're believing for the harvest. So why do you go to the temple? For the harvest. The harvest of wheat comes in for Shavuot, like the harvest of barley came in for Pesach, for Passover. So he says, if you keep my mitzvot, which are my commandments, literally walk in my statutes, which are my decrees, then I will give you rain in your season, the land will yield its crops, and the trees of the field will yield their fruit. So the text in the Torah actually says, Behar Sinai, in the mount. Remember, the letter Beit is a picture of a house. It's interesting. We finished talking about Har Habayit and the connection to Beit being a house, because we saw the prefix, which bait and bait are connected. Bait means house of. Bait is the Hebrew word for house. And so the letter bait is the picture of a bite. We saw that when we talked about the aleph being an eleph, an ox, and the bait being a bite, a house. Notice the similarity. Still bait, yud, tav, spelling it from right to left, but the change of vowels. Bite has a patach underneath the letter bait. And then there is a hirik, or a dot, underneath the letter yud. So B-A-Y-I-T, leaning on the first syllable, it's not bayit, but bayit. 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 So think of a bite of food. That'll keep the timing correct. Bite, not bayit. It would be incorrect to make these two medium length vowels operate like they're two long vowels. That it is not bayit, it's bite. But the letter and the construct form is bait. Same letters, bait, yud, tav. But underneath the letter bait is two dots for sereh, a long E vowel, and then followed by a letter yud with no vowel. So the yud is not a consonant. You don't even need to spell it. So I've spelled it B-E-T or B-E-I-T. Some spell it B-E-Y-T, but the I and the Y are unnecessary because they are part of the vowel. The yud is not a consonant in this case. It's a part of the vowel, the E-Y or E-I of bait, which is why I pronounce it bait and not bet. Many Israelis, though, pronounce it bet because they don't want to be confused with bite or bait, house of or house. Again, it's spelled the same way, though. The bait, sereh, yud, and then the tav, bait. So now that we know the connection between the letter bait as a house and Har Habayit as the mountain of the house and the temple, which was considered the mountain of the house, when we translate it now to Behar Sinai, we know this is the place where God commanded the building of God's house that was not permanent, but was temporary, called a tabernacle. The tabernacle, the Mishkan, was a temporary place for God's presence in the wilderness. So, if I switch from Behar Sinai to Al Har Sinai is on Mount Sinai. So to be on the mount is Al Har, let me not put too much chutzpah on that. Al Har Sinai. Al Har Sinai, on the mount. So Al means on. Almost very similar in meaning because of its root to Aliyah, or the airlines that goes to Israel, El Al. Or we have the Ole, the offering that goes up on the heavens, or goes up. And so we have the idea of going up or up on something. So to come on something in Hebrew is a function. How do you come on something? You go up on it. So on and up on are the same word in Hebrew, al, because al means to go up, like the ole, to go up. So al is very similar to ole. We have the word ole that in modern Hebrew and in Torah services refers to an aliyah, or New York Jews might say an aliyah, but it is the word aliyah, like immigrating to Israel. So aliyah, from the same root as al, or aliyah, and other variant English spellings, is the calling of a member of a Jewish congregation to the bima, the reading table, the judgment seat, for a segment of reading from the Torah. So when you read from the Torah, whether you're a bar or bat mitzvah, or you're a member of the congregation reading on a Shabbat morning, you're called an ole if you make an aliyah. Notice the ayin and the lamed. The ayin and the lamed is the same ayin and lamed that we're using here for al. It means to go up. So to go up on the mount, literally. And then we could go from Al Har Sinai to Midbar Sinai, which means in the wilderness of Sinai, or literally just wilderness of Sinai. I'd have to put Be Midbar, as in the book of Be Midbar. So Be Midbar Sinai would be in the wilderness of Sinai. In this case, Midbar Sinai is the wilderness or the desert of Sinai. And if we go to this concept of Bechukotai again, and consider this idea of the command here in Leviticus 26:3 that if you walk in my statutes, the word Bechukotai is the letter beit with hok, a statute or a decree, hok. So we have Bechukotai is a form of hok, or plural would be hukim. The actual feminine is hukah, and just like the Torah portion in a construct state, we can say hukat, which means the statute or decree of something in a construct state. Construct just means you're constructing a phrase. Like if I say the Torah of truth, I say not Torah emet, I say Torat emet. Torat, the hey becomes a tav, just like this hey here for hukah became hukat. Its construct form means a decree of something. Hukat. And we get that from the portion, Parshat Hukat, which says Hukat HaTorah. The ordinance, literally the decree or statute of the Torah, in reference to the red heifer ceremony. So if you've studied Hukat, you know about the red heifer and the water of purification and the hyssop and the sprinkling of the unclean to make them clean if they've touched the dead. We know that the Hukat HaTorah is referring to the ashes of the red heifer. So when we think about Bechukotai, it says that the land should produce if you're keeping my statutes. Now, I want to go back to something for a minute. The land is producing. In Leviticus 25:1, it says, speak to Bnei Israel and tell them when you come into the land, remember the land should be producing. This is how the land's going to produce. The land that I give you, the land should keep a Shabbat to Adonai. Why would the land need to keep a Shabbat? Well, the only way that we're going to be productive and produce is we obey his mitzvot, which one of his mitzvot, one of the top 10, are to keep the Shabbat holy, not only for the people, but for the land. The land needs to rest. So think about this concept. When we say Shabbat Shalom, where we are wishing someone the peace of the Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom, the peace, which is Shalom, of Shabbat, which is the Sabbath. This comes from the idea of Shavat Vayinafash. Speaking of God, he rested and refreshed himself. Shavat, notice how it sounds like as a verb, the noun Shabbat. So Shavat and Shabbat are the same letters from the same root. Vayinafash comes from nefesh, soul. So God refreshed his soul. God refreshed his mind, emotions, and will for our lives. He refreshes or renews it for us. Not that he needs it, but we need it. We need that renewal. So the idea is that from Shabbat, we get Shabbat. The Sabbath means that he rested. He rested. So from Shabbat, as a verb, we have Shabbat. That he rested, which gives us the Sabbath. In fact, we say that we should have a Shabbat Shabbaton, a double reference of Shabbat, which means a Sabbath of complete rest, or a Sabbath of Sabbath, or a Shabbat of Shabbats, if you could create a phrase like that. The Greek even uses that and takes Shabbaton and makes it Sabbaton for the word week leading up to the Sabbath and the word Sabbath itself. This is interesting because we have even words like Sabbatismos, which means that God's people should still have a Shabbat rest. Hebrews 4:9 says, so there remains a Shabbat rest for the people of God. And this Sabbatismos is in the Greek, a keeping Sabbath. It can also be applied in Christian theology to the blessed rest from our toils and troubles looked for in the age to come by true worshipers of God or true Christians. But don't forget that the only reason we have a Shabbat rest coming in the future, whether you're talking about the millennial reign of the Messiah or eternity, is because God rested. He rested. Remember, the idea is that Shavat Vayinafash, he rested and refreshed himself. So what is this refreshing? Vayinafash means not only that he rested, but his soul, his nefesh, rested. His soul was refreshed. So rest, or nofesh, another word for rest, nofesh comes from nefesh. The only way to get rest is that your soul rests from its activities. Your thoughts are renewed. Your emotions are set on things above. Your will is renewed to his will. That's what Yeshua did when he says, not my will, but your will be done. So that's how we rest. We let our soul become refreshed in God in his finished work. So, all right, let's see if we can open up the floor, for some questions. And don't forget that we have Bible Gateway, Blue Letter Bible. And so today we're going to look at the language of Hebrew. Got Leviticus 25, Vayikra, and we can see right here in the text that we have, and the Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai saying. But in Hebrew, Vadaber, meaning and he spoke or said. Adonai, so here we have Adonai, Yud He Vav He, the tetragrammaton, the name of God. And then we have El, which means two. So Vadaber Adonai, El means two. And then we have Moshe. Moshe is Moses. Moshe is referring to he who was drawn out from the water. And then we have the name of the portion. We have Behar. Behar. And then followed by that, Sinai. Sinai. And then we have saying, Lemor. Lemor, to say. So here we have the tetragrammaton, Yud He Vav He here for us to look up 3068. Notice how they give you a transliteration there, but they're guesstimating it based upon these vowels, which really in the Jewish tradition is only giving you the vowels for Adonai and not for the way to pronounce it. We have Moshe here. We have Behar, but it's telling you that if you take the prefix beit off, it's just har. And they even put in mount, because what needs to come after is Sinai. Sinai. Behar Sinai. And then Lemor comes from Amar. Amar. Which means to say. So, what is he going to say? Well, let's go back and see about the Shabbat. Daber el bnei Yisrael le'amata alehem ki tavo'u. Tavo'u, literally when you come into the land. El ha'aretz, you come into the land. Asher ani noten lachem, that I am giving to you. Now look right here. The letter Vav is a prefix, and Shavta ha'aretz. What is Shavta? It's the feminine form of Shavat, which means to rest. Why is it feminine? Because ha'aretz, the land, is feminine. So it's saying the land, she shall rest. So it doesn't say Shavat like God said Shavat, it's Shavta. The feminine form is referring to the feminine gender noun ha'aretz, the earth. And then we have Shabbat, Ladonai. So we have Shabbat Ladonai, a Sabbath for the Lord. So here is the word Shabbat, but here is the same three letters, Shin, Beit, Tav. In this case, Shin, Veit, Tav. Without the Dagesh, it's a V. And we see it's from Shabbat, which we already found out means that he rested. So if we take a look at this idea that the land should rest, haaretz should rest, we can see that it's a Sabbath based upon the Sabbath man should apply to their life. We're even going to get into a sabbatical year where every seventh year is going to be a Shabbat rest for the land here. And later in the book of Devarim, we're going to see that in the 15th chapter, it's going to call it a Shemitah. A Shemitah. So look at here, Shabbat. So it says, U Vashana Hashvi'it. Hashvi'it. So Hashvi'it is the seventh. So it says, in the seventh year, Uva Shana Hashvi'it Shabbat Shabbaton. And in the year the seventh, a Sabbath of Sabbaths, a Shabbat Shabbaton. Yihyeh will be lehaaretz to the land, a Shabbat Ladonai, a Sabbath to the Lord, Sadecha, Sadecha, which means referring to the actual land itself. So a rest for the land. Lo tizra, you are not to sow. Tizra, zera means seed. Zera, from zara, to sow. Tizra with the tav in front means that you will not, in the future, you will not sow. So you're not going to sow. It says, ve karmecha lo tizmor. So you shall not sow your field or even prune your vineyard. So this means it's going to be receive a complete rest to the Lord. All right. So that gives us a little taste in the Hebrew, using Blue Letter Bible, of the two portions, the double portion of Behar and Bechukotai. So let's see if our dear friends on Zoom want to say hi to us. All right, Joseph, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Rabbi.
Good. Any questions on this Torah portion tonight?
This is this a separate incident compared to Exodus 19 and 20?
Oh, Exodus 19 as far as what? Sinai, or which part? Yeah, actually when I did my slides for Sinai, like Al Sinai, that was actually where we got that from. In fact, we can go back there. Let's go to Har. When you click on Har and you go down, you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see all the times from Genesis it's used. And you're also going to see that is in Exodus 3, 4, 15, 18, and 19:2. So let's go to 19:2, where it says, for they departed from Rephidim, had come to the wilderness of Sinai. That's exactly where I got that phrase from, Midbar Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. So this is exactly the same exact wilderness area. They were in the wilderness of Sinai, not actually on the mount, but in the wilderness surrounding that area. That's the region. So they were in the region, but they weren't necessarily on the mountain here. So it says Midbar Sinai. Midbar Sinai. All right, so let's see if we can figure out if we have any specific question on that. All right, Joseph, do you have any specific question on that?
The specific question was Are these two separate incidences, or is the same incident?
Oh, well, this is Shavuot. Okay, so it is actually Shavuot. It's chapter 19, the giving of the Torah. So when you're talking about the incidents in Leviticus, it is talking a little bit differently of just about the commandments per se, but not the experience, because that happens after they write Leviticus. So, because they have to actually build the tabernacle and inaugurate the priesthood. All right, so we've had a good time tonight. I don't know if anybody else has any questions tonight, but it is getting late. I'm grateful that we've got some friends that are on. Let's see. Rosalind is a night owl. She says, Shalom, Laila Tov. And she says, thank you, Rabbi Brian Baruch Todah. So we're going to go ahead and close out tonight with the Aharonic benediction, because I believe we've had a really good lesson tonight. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'nihuneka. Yisa Adonai v'lecha. V'asem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you perfect peace and Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace. In the name of Yeshua the Messiah we pray. B'Shem Yeshua. Amen. All right, everyone. It's been a great night tonight. So glad to have you with us. See you soon.